Welcome to the darkness.
Woo, we're back, the whole crew. Let me move. I got to move the comments, Kenna. But yeah, let me
taller.
There we go. How's that?
I can scooch this way. Perfect.
Oh gosh, it's so good to have everybody back. I'm excited. That's great. Okay, so McKenna, you had a topic?
Yes, I do have a topic.
Okay. Okay, everybody was frozen for a second. I'm like, what's happening? Here we go.
We're good. Just the energy. Okay, so we're going to talk about like psychic abilities in children, telepathic abilities in children, and like, of course, the government association, or, you know, sticking their nose where definitely doesn't belong, which, you know, doesn't belong in many places. But talk a little bit about that. So I kind of wanted to start off with like, because like there's children who have like, we've discussed like past life regression, and like we talked about like some specific instances like that, and that's, you know, more of like a soul connection or like a soul like rebirth. Hi Max. But like we've kind of like made like little tidbits, and we had like little bits of information here and there from you guys about like your own personal experiences like with the paranormal in childhood, or, you know, with like having like that sixth sense or some sort of premonition. And so any like particular stories you guys would like to share, totally jump in. Just kind of like whenever. And then we are going to discuss, Susie brought it up, but we're going to discuss the GATE program, which is super, super cool. So you guys want to start off with like a story? Does anyone have like a story they're like dying to share?
Well, I remember Celeste having that story about when it was a funeral. The story.
Oh,
remember Celeste?
Funerals. Yeah.
I know, but you saw the little girl on the roof of that one building.
Yeah. So, well, and it's just one of those weird interconnected things too, which I have all the time. So one of my professors at ISU, after I had graduated, moved to Texas, and his 16-year-old daughter was out with friends. They were driving in a pickup truck, and they crashed on the interstate. And out of the 4 in the truck, his daughter was the only one who didn't survive. And they were originally from Pocatello, but were living in Texas. Well, one of my good friends, which I didn't realize when I was going to school, was I think she was his sister-in-law. So they did a memorial here. And there was a church called St. Paul's, and it was out in Chubbuck, right on Chubbuck Road. And it was kind of a cool church because it was kind of octagon or hexagon shaped. And it was like partially underground, if that makes sense. So like it wasn't sitting on the ground, it was sitting below the ground and above. And so it wasn't impossible to get onto the roof from the outside pretty easily, especially, you know, if you were a kid. So I'm there and I'm helping my friend to decorate for the celebration of life so that all of her friends that she'd went to school with all of her life could go there for a service. So weird feelings the whole time I'm in there. And apparently my friend Debbie had the same, you know, like we felt like she was with us. And didn't say anything to each other, but I kept like looking over my shoulder. I could feel her right there. And it's weird. So Catholic churches have this altar area, but above this particular altar from the ceiling was suspended a piece of wood, like almost the same size as the altar below. And I kept like out the corner of my eye seeing her sitting on that or feeling her sitting on that. So we go to leave and we're walking outside of the church, and I just have this, I'm being watched. And I turn around and there's a little girl about 11 or 12 years old sitting on the roof of the church. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what the heck? And I turn back around and I'm like, no, that's dangerous. I got to go say something. And I turn around again and she's not there. And I'm like, okay, that was weird, because she was in a leotard with the stockings and the little chiffon skirt that you see on a typical ballerina, with ballet shoes that had the lace, like toe shoes that had the laces that came up the leg. And it was like she was there and she was gone. And I was like, okay, that was weird, because she was younger. The girl who had died was 16, almost 17. And so I didn't even connect the two, but I'm like, am I losing my mind? I just saw a girl on the church. So I kind of am looking around because it's there, almost like pyramid kind of peaks. And it's not terribly steep, but there's no girl around. So I get in my car and I'm driving and I'm talking to myself in my rearview mirror, like, have I lost my ever loving mind? Was that a ghost? Was who? What? Why? You know? I'm like, I drove home and I was so disturbed, isn't quite the right word, but I was so, it was an unusual experience that I'd ever had. And I couldn't even go. I couldn't go to the memorial that night. I would just was like, am I hallucinating? And, because I'd always felt the presence of things, but that was the first time that I saw, but I didn't know at the time for sure that I had seen a spirit. So I go back the next day to help Debbie clean up, and she's like, are you okay? You didn't come back. And I said, yeah, I'm fine. And she goes, hold on, I need to go get something out of the trunk of the car. And I said, okay. So I walk over to her car. She opens the trunk, and there's a pink leotard, a pair of toe shoes, and the little chiffon skirt. And I lost it. I started crying. I started talking in tongues. I don't know. I couldn't even get words out. And she's like, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? Why are you so upset? What's going on? And I'm like, oh my God, what is this? And she goes, oh, that was Casey's ballerina costume. Okay, ladies, my door just opened.
Nice.
Is that what I just heard? The creak?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Wow.
My door was totally shut. My dog's sitting next to me on the sofa. Anyhow, hi, Casey.
She's like, I hear you talking about me.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Wow.
Interesting. That has never happened before. So not especially when I'm live on TV. But anyway, so I'm like, oh my gosh, and she's like, okay, just calm down. And we're both like hyperventilating. And I said, I saw her on the roof last night wearing that. And she's like, what? And I said, I saw her on the roof last night wearing that. She goes, she couldn't have been. This was from when she was a little girl. And then I really, really freaked out. And I said, she was like 10, 12 years old. And she was sitting, and I showed her the pose, how she was sitting in what I saw. And Debbie pulls her wallet out and she flips open the photos. You know how we used to have the little part in the wallets with the photos. And she goes like this. And it was the exact same position that she was in the photo, wearing that exact outfit. It was one of her like recital or some, you know, how they do the photo things. And we both just started bawling. And apparently she came here to verify all of that. But anyway, I was just like, oh my, I said I couldn't come back. I didn't know if I've lost my mind. And she's like, do you see things usually? And I'm like, I don't know. It was at that point that I realized how much a spirit or a soul can look real. She looked real. She looked solid. She didn't look, you know, shimmery, iridescent, see-through. She looked like there was a little girl sitting on the roof, and I knew that the little girl was not 16, going on 17. And for her to have the picture, to have that exact thing right on the top. She goes, I was going to put it out, but I didn't know where to put it. So, and then, yeah.
The apparitions that I have seen are all solid. I don't see a lot, but they're solid. And then all of a sudden you look again and they're gone. Just blink, you're gone.
I've seen, obviously, the solid. A few that I know. That one I knew she was not living, but I'm pretty sure there's been some other ones that maybe I just didn't realize that they were spirits at the time. But a lot of them mine have been more shadowy, or it's one of those where they kind of, I don't know if you would call it like holographic, kind of. They're solid, but they're not solid, and they kind of shimmer.
The shimmer. Yep.
Yeah.
I've seen the shimmer, but very rarely. So McKenna, what was your question originally?
Well, just so I mean, I'm not sure like how you guys like were raised. Like there's different ways everyone kind of goes through like the school system. Everyone's raised with different parents, different like raised physically with different diets and environments, and it's like so vastly different. But like, you know, we've all come together. You guys all have had childhood experiences with the paranormal abilities, or like this extra sense of like the energies that are around you guys. And, you know, just that's interesting to me because it has been targeted and it has been experimented and not particularly like publicized, but I was kind of curious like what your guys' like first experiences were. Because you do have like a personal like, well, I keep saying experiences, but experience to contribute, you know, like you actually went through this. And since it's like our topic that we're going to learn a little bit more about, and kind of like how other people are learning about it, I just wanted to hear what you guys had gone through, what you had seen, just because I'm interested
Susie,
in you guys.
what was your first one that you remember?
The first one that I actually remember was a not nice one at the base of my parents', like the landing at the bottom of the stairs to the basement. And it looked demonic to me. It was not nice. The energy I got off from it, and I was still on a bottle at that time. I was walking. I remember this, that I was walking, but I still had a bottle. And I would go to the top of the stairs and it would be down there crouched, growling at me. And I would literally chuck my bottle at it. That's the first one I vividly remember seeing, but I've had a plethora since then. Like I tell you, girls, good, bad, ugly, and otherworldly, like weird. Some of them that I've been, because I've died a few times, come back, and I've been visited by the spirits that have kicked me back out, you know, said, you got to come, you're not done. So that's always been really interesting. Like being sick at my grandmother's house and not being able to breathe on her couch and crying. And I saw this lady come out in white that wasn't touching the floor. She was about 3 feet off the floor. And she handed me what looked like a book, a white book. And I took it, and immediately I went to sleep, and I woke up like not sick. So I've had a lot of those kind of experiences my whole life. My family was not shy about sharing experiences, because it's, you know, really pronounced through, especially my mom's side. but we would go to funerals and I could see the spirits still there at the funerals, sometimes hanging out by the casket. And every now and then they would have like an overlay of them on the body where it looked like the body was still moving, smiling, blinking, and it looks like a shimmer. And that's their spirit. So I've had all kinds of experiences like that. I've had shadow figures. I've had the things that try to mimic other things, you know, like you think, well, what's that out of my corner of my eye? Oh, it's just a coat standing there, but is it, you know? Or just the orbs, like all kinds of stuff. But I think it's also like I've always been really open to it. Didn't really talk about it until, you know, openly outside my family very often until much later. But it was just something that I was so used to and open and accepting of it that it's just day to day. It's normal. It's just everyday life for me. Like last night, I laid down, closed my eyes, and I saw a whole bunch of my mother's side dead relatives like showing up. And then they let me know that there's another one that's going to be passing soon, which unfortunately I know exactly who it is. So I got that warning yesterday, kind of right here. My same age, or my cousins.
There's been so many, I'm calling us younger people, that are like around my age, that's one of my lovely gifts too. And it's a hard one. It's a really, especially,
yeah, you're like, okay, thanks for letting me know, but what do you want me to do about it? You know, not much I can do about it, but you know, just visit and say, hey, how have you been doing? And see you later. Sorry, that was a pooper. That was in the toilet. Sorry.
No, it's good. It's good to hear about the experiences and like, well, gosh,
well,
like,
some of them aren't that great. I mean, some are pretty funny, but you know, there's been a few times I've been literally on the toilet. Okay. They don't care about personal space. And I've had my hair stroked while I'm doing a number. Okay. That's not okay. There's no personal.
I've had my fanny popped, like somebody was popping the back of my fanny when I was getting in the shower.
Yeah.
I turned around, I thought it was my ex-husband, and I went to yell at him, like, get out of here. And there was nobody there. It was the shadow dude. Sorry. She apparently needs some snuggles. Yeah, it's crazy. That's crazy. So tell us about the experience, McKenna, or the government thing.
No.
okay. Well, we'll go ahead and start with the GATE program.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like how you guys are familiar with like MK Ultra.
Yes.
Right. So
Yep.
they were like a series of experiments, psychological, you know, basically it was torture to try and bring on abilities in people, in children. It was in the US. And so after that is about when Russia had like launched Sputnik. And the US was in this phase of like, we need to catch up. Like, we need to make sure that we are like on par with them intellectually, scientifically, mechanically. And I'm not sure if the Sputnik thing was a specific, like, just like a reason for them to implement this program, like to the public, to the media, or if it actually worried them and they felt like they needed to kind of implement the GATE program to like have like this way to like spy on Russia, on China, on these other countries. And these other countries are doing similar experiments or have been doing similar experiments at this time as well, probably still doing them. Right. So the GATE program is like a gifted educational program. There's been like many different variations of it. I'm sure it started off very innocently, like in the 1800s and before that, as you know, trying to make sure that like gifted kids, and it was specific like mathematics, science, and like writing initially, like way back when. But like to make sure like these gifted children had like extra opportunities or to like have access to additional testing and stuff like that. But they used this program, or they implemented this program to perform experiments, perform tests on children in public schools. And not everyone has the same experience. Like I found, and I looked into multiple forums about people asking, because, you know, like everything's out there on the internet and anyone can read about anything. And there were a couple different forums about people saying like, hey, like who was in the GATE program? What do you remember? What did you experience? And, you know, the grand majority is like, yeah, you know, I would go and they'd have me play Oregon Trail and we'd do like extra math, you know. But there were also quite a few that would have had like different tests, different like experiences. Some children were like bused to like completely different like areas or educated in completely different buildings under like the blanket of like this like GATE program. So these are like the kind of paranormal things that they were testing for. So they were testing children's telepathic abilities. So they were implementing experiments to see if these kids could communicate mind to mind with others, or specifically with like parents, teachers, peers, without any spoken language or physical cues. They were testing for psychic or like extrasensory abilities. So like knowing information without like ever have being taught, kind of like when we did the past life regression of like a child who was the World War II pilot who had like crashed out. Like he never should have known all the stuff he knew about planes and about the war, and he knew, and he was 2 years old. So also kind of under like the extrasensory is like reading others' thoughts, like predicting the future, or like remote viewing, you know, like astral projection. They tested them for a heightened or expanded consciousness. So some kids had experience that of participants or themselves like being like possessing an elevated level of awareness, intuition, or spiritual development, sometimes as being more evolved than average.
So I can tell you, I'm well before the Oregon Trail game, straight out of the Cold War. Woo! I literally had a bad feeling when those people came into my school, and I was like, I'm not going to tell them. I'm not going to tell them the truth. And we literally sat down with the cards, the star, the circle, the diamond, and the heart, testing us.
Did you have the wavy one?
The waves too.
A wavy one, and then they would also have a screen between us and say, okay, draw this picture what I'm drawing. They legit did that stuff to us. Or can you guess what I'm thinking? And it was, they were testing for remote viewing. They were testing for psychic abilities.
What was the time frame? I'm sorry, I had to step out and put the dogs out.
For me, mine, it was, I was born in 1973. So mine was during the Cold War, and I was in elementary school. Now McKenna, obviously, it was still ongoing because there's reports of people doing it during my children's age, where you know they were playing the Oregon Trail game and those kind of things. I don't think they ever quit, honestly.
Oh no,
So,
I looked it up, and Utah has the GATE program specifically. They call it the GATE program still.
Yeah. See, and they always told us it was for this extra smart kids, but they kept it really hush hush, and they wouldn't say exactly what they were doing, and they bust them off site for half of the day. And my gut, when I was little teeny, was screaming, "Don't do it!" And this is probably going down the extra weird rabbit hole, but they were also bringing in fluoride drinks for us too, and having us. Yes, and tablets. And I only did that once, and my mother said, "Don't touch them ever again."
Yeah.
Crap.
And and I
What
remember
does one have to do with the other? Well, I remember the dye, like after you brushed your teeth.
Yeah, the dye was one thing. They would like give us tablets, and our teeth would get white. They would go really, really white. And I watched my friend's teeth get white. That's why I have like these 2 white spots in my teeth, because my friend gave me 2 tablets. It was weird. And then they would also do the fluoride swishing thing. And my mom got really upset because they gave it to me without her permission. And she said, "I never signed off on that. You do not give that to my child." And now amongst like the spiritual communities, you know, you can put whatever relevance to it you want, but they are saying that that does calcify your pineal gland. So I don't know, but it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And I've always been a very intuitive little
Fluoride,
creature.
just
Like,
FYI, guys. So I work in the hazmat field, and fluoride is really, really bad for the human body. Really, really bad.
Yep.
And yeah, it's not. I know that they did it to help. They thought maybe. I mean, this is the line they've given us, that it was supposed to help us with teeth.
Yeah.
Right.
With teeth, because we had such a dental problem throughout the U.S. And it did help teeth. Mine is the example. I mean, just great teeth. I had great teeth. They put fluoride in our water, and that's the water I drank until I was 5 when we moved. So it was, and then we were on well water, but then we probably had mercury in it.
Suspicious that there may have been something else.
I think so too.
So
I'm sorry, but I don't. I work for the government. I don't trust anything they say anymore.
It wasn't the school district bringing that in. It was outside government people that were coming in.
It's in conjunction, though. They have to run it through the school district. They're telling the school district, we're going to do this. It is the government.
Oh, I know. But you know what I mean? It wasn't people that we were familiar with, or, it was strange.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, that whole Up With People phenomena. Do you guys remember that?
I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, that was nuts.
Creepy. It was culty.
It was super creepy. Cultish.
Yeah.
Cult moves. Yeah, definitely.
Sorry, McKenna.
No, you're good. This is great. I love it when there's extra dialogue, when there's bits and pieces.
People
The
that
fluoride. Oh yeah, the fluoride. So a couple of things about that. So on one forum, so there were 2 different sections of this person remembers being in the GATE program. There were 2 different sections. He was in the one that was the normal kids, and then there was one that was treated extra special. So the normal kids in the GATE program got the fluoride as well, but they were instructed to spit it out, and then the other kids were instructed to swallow it.
Yes. And we had that same thing. Yep.
Yes. And something else is watch this girl. She makes a bunch of videos. She actually has a series of videos on TikTok of her experience in the GATE program. And she's had health issues after this. Well, after this, she's an adult now. But she found that she has calcifications on her brain from the fluoride that she was basically made to ingest that block your sensory abilities, that block your telepathic abilities. And so, I mean, fluoride, it builds up. I have worked in dental since I was 17 years old. So a while. And they're they push it, and they encourage you to give it to your kids every 6 months, and they paint it on, and it's sticky, and so your kid's gonna swallow it. I mean, as far as I know, I haven't seen it being in school anymore. I really hope it's not in school.
I don't know.
When my granddaughters were in Head Start, they sent permission slips if you wanted them to get fluoride treatments.
So
no.
You have to. So we're thinking with all of this, I guess where you're leading with this, Kenna, is that they're trying to figure out who has this ability and then block it. For what reason?
If they could slip it to maybe the Russian operatives that have those abilities and block them, that would work.
Yeah, but how are they following up medically to see if the fluoride was blocking?
So so they've kept track, and there's statistics about all of these kids that were in the GATE program, and then the government tracks everything we say, everything we do, from our phones, from whatever speaker, from our TVs. It's all yes, exactly. They're listening to us right now, and they know everything that we're talking about, everything that's on the internet, obviously. So I don't care. I'm going to say what I'm going to say.
I say random stuff just weirdly, hoping that they're listening.
Oh yeah, for sure. sing all day, hum all day. Hopefully they just think all the noise is just static. Um,
We'll just stare at goats.
a what?
I said we'll just stare at goats.
That's right. The Men Who
Yeah.
Stare at Goats. No, that was a great movie. Okay.
Okay. What was the last thing you said, Colleen? I'm totally lost it.
Well, how were they? So were they following up to see if the fluoride was working? How were they
Thank you.
testing? Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so yes, and they're following us. So there is a higher rate of kids that were in the GATE program that get like let go from traffic stops, like a much higher percentage. They get let go from like minor crimes, like petty theft, stuff like that, after, things are checked. So I think these people are being kept tabs on, but I also think that there were different experimental like sections,
Mhm.
how much fluoride does a child have to ingest before they lose their psychic abilities, or like what enhances them, do they maintain them over however much period. But I think that the people that were in those programs are still being monitored. They're still being, they're part of an experiment because they've done the damage, they've done the experiment on them as children, and now they just watch and see what happens. Another person that I had listened to, she had stated that 50% of the people she had been in this GATE program with had committed suicide, that they had taken their own lives as well. And so you have to wonder what kind of psychological toll, like over a long period of time, even after the fact, has on these people.
Well, but you would have to then study people with psychic abilities not in the program and over a long period of time and see how many of them took their lives. People with no psychic abilities, you know what I mean?
Right.
To make it, yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Data is being gathered on every person in the world, from the second you're born. They take your blood, they take your footprints, they take your fingerprints. You are given a number and you're sent out into the world to live and for them to continue to collect data on you. And like they save all of this
Footsteps
data.
upstairs, guys. Human. And the dogs are out. So Gina had the door open.
And my dog left. He's in the other room by himself.
I had to put the dogs out because they were crying, and now someone's walking upstairs. Yeah.
Yeah,
Crazy.
earlier when I was recording those readings, I had knocking on my door with nobody there. It's kind of a funky day.
It is.
Yeah, what's happening today?
I don't know.
Hmm.
Don't know.
I don't know, but I swear that I saw someone like walk. It looked like they were walking like through my couch, and I convinced myself it was someone walking past my window, but that's like in my front yard. Like I was doing the dishes and I looked over and my heart dropped to my butt essentially, because I was like, in my brain there was someone in my house and there was no one there.
Well,
and so I was like, it's probably someone outside the window.
I don't think this is Dad, Doc. So this morning when I was getting out of the shower, I opened the glass door of my shower and I saw a black mist roll and then was gone. So I'm like, okay, I don't know who you are, but you need to leave. Well, clearly I haven't left. This is not my dad. I don't know who it is. I'll figure it out later. Have any ideas, Celeste? You're going,
Well, I'm just sitting here thinking my front door will open because the doorknob is weird.
Yeah.
And sometimes the little whatever that thing is that goes out and goes into the hole.
You're so technical.
The door.
The striker and
But this door it has a really good doorknob and it's never opened. And it's funny to be talking right about her. I don't know that it's her, but to have the door and then be like extra, it was weird.
Mm-hmm.
Weird stuff. Weird stuff.
Yeah, like I was
said-
telling Celeste earlier, it's like 2025 energy is still dissipating, so the energy is still kind of weird right now.
But it's lessening.
It is
I can feel
lessening.
it, like
It's still
like
there,
my shoulders are starting to drop a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I was always like this last year. Like
because
oh
it doesn't go exactly with the calendar date
No.
like we do. You know, it dissipates. So,
Yeah.
dear.
yeah. This is crazy. So I know I've heard about the GATE program, and for some reason I just like haven't thought about it in years.
Yeah,
Well-
I'd seen some things where people were like I didn't even remember it. Like it wasn't like something that was on the forefront of their memory, but like once they were reading like the criteria that like people looked for, or like the kind of thing that they were doing to people, like they were like, oh yeah, I was in that, you know, or like they called their mom and they're like, hey, was I part of this? And they were like, yes, you were.
I don't like. Well, they didn't come to our little mountain town school. That's for sure. There wasn't enough people in
There
there
was
to.
none at my school, but my kids here in Pocatello were both tested for it, and both of them said it was stupid. I didn't want to do it. I have a feeling they were like you because they're both very gifted.
Yeah,
it
and
was
they were like, nope, don't do it. Huh?
That was
Yep.
stupid. I didn't want to do that.
Yeah, and I was raised in Idaho Falls, and that's Podunk when I was back there too. So, yeah, what were
Yeah,
the?
but Idaho Falls is on the map
Well, I
because
know.
of INL, and so you have all the government up there.
Yep, and I
So-
was an INL baby, so
Yeah, so it doesn't surprise me that INL, Idaho Falls, would have it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
American Falls
It-
did not.
it just creeped me out. Those people creeped me out. I just was not comfortable any which way around.
My
So-
parents both went to school in Hollywood, and they were. It wasn't the GATE program though. It was different for back then. I don't know what it was, but it was very similar because my mom said she had to do the cards.
Yeah, so they had a couple different names for it. One was like the G&T program. Oh gosh, let me see if I can find it here real quick. So it's,
Because-
I mean, GATE stood for gifted, or stands for gifted and talented education. Let's see. But there was a couple different names.
Mm.
Okay, so GATE. So yeah, we just went over GATE, and then there's the talented and gifted, so TAG or G&T.
I don't
And then
remember
there-
her talking about any of those, but she had to do the cards. But I don't know what it would have been called.
Yeah. There was a couple others that I had seen. They weren't the exact same as like the GATE program. Like I think one was like MAP or something like that. Advanced placement, you know, it's all like,
Yeah.
but there were a few things that were kind of like similar but not the same thing. Like the one that's generally considered federal government regulated is GATE.
They're all spooky. All of those programs are spooky to me.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I
And I
know.
mean, I was
Mhm.
homeschooled. Like, I mean, I went to like bits of elementary, bits of middle school, and I did go through high school, but like in my elementary years, I remember kids like that would do the fluoride, but like I went to like 3 grades and then was homeschooled for the rest of it. So
So
my
did
mom had a feeling.
Did any of you guys get lined up in the auditorium or the gymnasium of your school in elementary for vaccinations?
Yep.
Yeah, I was going to say in American Falls, we were all in a line and nurses would come down both sides and give certain shots to certain people, and right at school, no parents around or anything.
yeah.
Well, I
And they would
remember
also say that
because we
was
got the
for-
polio back. You know, the polio
Yeah.
scars. Everybody has those, right?
I
For the
don't.
vaccines.
I don't.
I
They were-
definitely have it.
I was
Huh?
before the era. The polio, that scarring was before my era. My parents had that.
Yeah,
But I
I've got
remember
it.
being lined up in my underwear too, those kind of things, Celeste, and going through that line under the guise of checking for scoliosis as well.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
the scoliosis check.
Scoliosis
Yeah, that
and
was
the
big.
drops for the polio and the
Yep.
different shots and different sides of your, and they had different lines, and I
Mhm.
don't remember what they'd said the different lines were, but there were like 5 or 6. I was in a very small school. Like
Mm.
I graduated with the largest number of students in the history of American Falls, and we had 111. So it was pretty small. There was like less in our entire school than there was in my daughter's graduating class or my son. So, but yeah, I remember being lined up, and they were different lines, and they would, I don't remember what if your name is this or you're this age or whatever. I don't think it was that, because I had friends in my class in different lines than I was in.
Yeah, it's all creepy.
Yeah.
Like, keep your hands off the kids, man. It's creepy.
Yeah.
But now you got to wonder we have a lot of the anti-vax anything, not just COVID, anti-vax anything. And I just don't want to see a reoccurrence of illnesses. But what's the answer? I don't know, because I don't trust anything they're putting on anybody's bodies anymore. They're full of mercury. They're full of all kinds of crap.
Well, there's lots of people's own personal allergies because there's egg products in it. And that's a very common thing for people to be allergic to. Bovine, like, is it marrow? There's bovine something. And
it's serum, bovine serum. And it's
serum,
essentially cow blood.
Right.
Yeah.
Without the red blood cells. They spin them out or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, why? It's icky now. I don't, the older I get, the more I read into it, I'm like, but they did what to me? Like, what?
Well,
they fucked us full of
apparently
toxins.
My mom didn't vaccinate me for measles, and I was probably in 3rd grade, and I got measles. And they quarantined our house. They like had tape out in the yard and a sign on the door, and our house was quarantined. And I don't remember if it was the doctor or the hospital or whatever was yelling at my mom. And I didn't have any problems with it at all. I mean, I had red bumps and they itched, but I didn't get excruciatingly sick or anything. But yeah, you would have thought, I don't know, that I had the plague. And I know a lot of people don't survive the measles, but I was probably as sick with chickenpox as I was the measles. But growing up, we had chickenpox parties, and now they vaccinate for it. So,
oh yeah, I had chickenpox the right way. And I was going to say, yes, the measles parties, the chickenpox parties, like they were a thing. They were a thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's like any sort of virus, like your body is going to fight it or it's not. And that's with any virus, any cold that you are going to get. If you're immunocompromised, any cold is going to, it could have a detriment.
My mom died of the flu.
Right.
62 years old, working, seemingly healthy. She did have asthma. She had some breathing difficulties and her lungs collapsed, and that was it. I mean, it can happen,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think I struggle with the one size fits all on everything because, like you guys are saying, it can, people can die from it, but a lot of people don't die from it. But it's like there's not many things in this world that one size fits all. And it's like, but that's often the scope of medicine. A lot of times you take the same antibiotic, you take the same vaccine, you have the same treatment regimen. And I have a cousin who is in Boise, and what my friend Dawn Starr died from, she said there was less than a 7% survival rate of people that were intubated, and it was a particular kind of medication. But I don't even know how many people passed away before they went, oh, is it the medicine that killed them or the COVID? And it's like that. I think that part is what scares me, because you have people that are allergic to gluten, and you have people that are allergic, or have asthma, these other underlying, or smokers, or have an autoimmune. And it's like, I don't know, the generalized, here, everybody do the exact same thing.
Right.
Just seems.
Well, you have to extrapolate from evidence, So in the 80s, there were about 5 vaccines. Like, it was 5 vaccines that people were given. That's what was regulated. That's what physicians advised in the 80s. And also in the 80s, a bill was passed by the government that pharmaceutical companies could not be held liable for vaccine damages to people. And now there are 54.
Jesus. I can't even believe that.
Yeah.
So I remember because my mom never kept our vaccination records. When I went to college, I had to go back through all the vaccines again.
Mm-hmm.
And the measles rubella one, when you're older, it locks all your joints up like you have tetanus. I remember waking up just like I couldn't move. It hurt so bad I couldn't straighten my arms. I was all locked up. And it took about 72 hours for that to really, it was awful. And the nurse said, oh, this is probably going to hurt you in a few days. Thanks, Mom, for not keeping my vax records, because I had to go through it all over again. Yeah.
Yeah. And what you're talking about, Kenna, a lot of times before a child is 1, I believe, they get more vaccinations than like our generation. You're younger than us, but we got in our entire lifetime.
Well, as an adult, like you would get, so thinking back to like the last time I worked in a medical setting, so you would get your MMR, your DTaP, your it's basically like it's like a secondary flu. It's not like your actual flu shot you get every year. It's a different influenza. You get your Hep B, and nowadays I think you get your COVID.
Did you
like
you
as
guys
an adult.
get the hepatitis one?
Yeah.
Nope.
Well,
you were in the military. You have to get a lot of this stuff in the military. You don't get a choice.
No.
Yeah. Yep. You don't get a choice.
My dad would tell me about when he was drafted for Vietnam that they just gave him shots in both sides, just like cattle going through. And he would ask what it was, and they would tell him, "Don't ask, just don't ask."
Yeah, in boot camp, you're riddled, just like because they don't know anybody's background, so they just do it.
Well, and you're going potentially to other parts of the world.
Right. When you deploy, then you have to go through a whole nother set of medical screening and get more shots based on whatever area, like malaria or whatever, wherever you're deploying to. This just boot camp.
Don't they have them for certain chemical warfare agents?
Mm-hmm.
That's what my dad was saying that he got.
Yeah, there's some shots targeted towards whatever exposure you might be having. And God knows what that's going to do to you.
Yeah.
I mean, really, but anyway, so these kids in the GATE program, are they followed as adults?
I mean, there's no like data on it. Like, I mean, the
there's
GATE
no
program.
data. Are they actually checking in with people and?
Not like in a survey sense, not at all. I'm sure like they're being kept tabs on, see which ones. I mean, in a basic sense, they're probably seeing like the majority of them that they weren't doing like the other experiments on, like seeing, if they go to college, what they study, stuff like that. Because I mean, that's all public record. That's all public information. Even if it wasn't public record or public information, they'd be able to acquire it. So I'm sure they have all of the data. They have to have all of the data.
Well, I don't know.
Assume, what their goals
there's
are.
Also a new thing that I just found out, that the government does have an access to our medical records through basically like the CDC. They look at rates of like cancer in certain areas and things
they've done that for years.
So so they can get access to those actual records from the hospitals and things like that, and so they can look up names easily.
Yeah.
Well, but you have to. So one of the things I caution people with, I go down the government conspiracy rabbit hole every single day. I'm like, oh, that ain't good. I'll be listening to a podcast or whatever, but you have to realize how disorganized our government really is. It really, truly is. So you're talking about data that was collected on people before computers, really, and databases, and merging all of these old records. And what do you do? Because I've been setting this up for my department for the last 15 years. It's scanning and digitizing all of our records and getting them into databases so that we can find what we need, because my God, you know.
Right.
And so you're talking about, so just to go down another rabbit hole, David Paulides talks all the time about how the National Park System doesn't keep records on people that go missing. No, they don't. They really, really don't, because there's no system to do it. You know what I'm saying? It's not like they had a magic database and started plugging all this in. They left that up to, yeah, they would do a search and rescue, but once it was over, a report was written, it was filed, it was shoved into a filing cabinet, and then destroyed years later or shipped down to the salt caves in Kansas, and nobody's ever looked at that report again. So no one has ever done anything with this information.
Right.
The government is not set up to collect information. Well,
I
there's
think it
some things they do and some that they just don't.
Right. And I think that also depends on how close you are to like the public sector or what department of the government you work with or your role therein. I mean, because, you know, the CIA is going to have way more resources and all of the funding that could ever exist, you know, like compared to like the National Park Service or, you know,
I don't know.
well, I don't know about the Department of Education. I have no idea. But I mean, another federal program.
The other aspect of that is if they are doing research on things, they're not going to publicly disclose that.
No, they're not. But I just have a hard time with this being a massive conspiracy. I think it was more of a, I'm just thinking through this logically with my background going, it was more of a public health thing. The fluoride, they were, you know what I'm saying? I don't know that they had their shit together enough to try to figure out that fluoride could block psychic abilities. I mean, I really don't.
So I do have, and these were all released in 2016. So this is just archive.com. This is
okay.
All of like the documents that the government released. This was specifically released by the CIA in 2016. And it is Stargate, essentially. And so I'm just going to read off the titles, and these are files that are public. Anyone can go and read through these experiments released by the CIA. So this one, so you can read the full library, which is 12,240 documents. One is called the Controlled Remote Viewing Manual, which is 98 pages.
Yeah.
It is the Guide of All Basics and Advanced Methods of Remote Viewing. Analysis and assessment of gateway process, study of paranormal phenomena by means of experiments at microscopic level. And like, I don't know how much you'll be able to see, but all of these are articles released by the CIA on paranormal.
Yeah, remote viewing was a huge thing.
Yeah. And I mean, these like, they're like over a span of like years, but it's like recently released. But it is in correlation with like certain interviews coming out or people that have like protections, I guess, from the government, from, you know, giving out information. So like essentially they can give out information. They have some sort of immunity. Like they have a heads up. They know that like if things are going to be spilled, they're going to release thousands of documents, you know, and anyone can go in. I can send you a link and read this stuff, and it's very interesting. And some of it is just like compilation of like the experiments that like the Chinese were doing.
Sure.
And you know, there's a breakdown, like it was cruel. Some of the stuff they were doing was cruel. And I mean, you know, everyone's gonna have their own morals, but
I remember my ex-husband actually was experimented on with hepatitis. They took a bunch of people in the military, and if he was already in the hospital for something, he'd gotten wounded in an army exercise, and everybody who was in this particular military hospital at the time was asked if they would volunteer for an experiment. He was half out of his mind anyway on pain pills, so he's like, yeah, whatever, you know. And so they were injecting hepatitis or something into our veteran, or not, you know, active military, to see like what would happen to them. Yeah, it was bad. It was really bad. And this was like the 90s.
Oh wow. Yeah.
That's so scary.
Yeah. So
I mean, I just noticed what time it was. We've gone on a little bit of a government tangent.
yeah, we haven't done any readings tonight. I'm sorry, folks. Get your reading in real quick.
I was going to say, nobody's asking me questions. I think we're all just intrigued with the topic and
It is an
relating
intriguing topic.
relating. Yeah.
I just you know, they could have been, but honestly, there's just I've seen so much the lack of communication from even one office to another, even in departments, you know, in one department to the other, that it's so hard for me to think that in the time before data was really, I would say about 2010 on, where we could start using Excel and getting things into databases and doing stuff like that. It was all paper. It was paper. And there's just massive filing cabinets of paper that actually get shipped to archives, and they're never seen again. They're literally never seen again. You can pull those boxes if you want. Hopefully they made it to archives. UPS lost a lot of our stuff. Just saying.
Well, it makes me think of like they had like the projector things, like the projector cards in libraries, and like they would essentially have a picture.
Yes.
And it was like a picture of an entire page of like a newspaper article, and it just a slide, and it would show up on the screen.
Yeah, but somebody's got to put that together. Right. You know, that's the thing. And
I mean, I don't know how many people they like, what kind of job they would assign, you know, like who does that? Like, because I mean, I recently learned that there's like a next level, like there's a librarian that you'd see at like your library, but there is like a college degree librarian that all they do is research and archiving, and it's like a bachelor's degree or a master's degree. I had no idea this was a thing until like fairly recently, but I mean, I think that'd be a good person to find records and archive them, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I would love to know if they've actually followed any of these people.
Right. Yeah, me too. Maybe next time, like we'll get into so I read an article. It's by a woman named Rebecca Wright. She's a PhD. She does all kinds of like really cool research, but she has like an article about psionics, which is like your paranormal experiments with children. And so it's a really interesting read. We can get into that next time. And then we're going to kind of get into like the telepathy tapes as well. I had some stuff prepped for that, but we'll
get into
transition next time.
The telepathy tapes.
I have a question for Susie. Did you ever have any other type of gifts? Like, I can't remember which name it is, but like where you could move objects, or like, I would get angry when I was a child, and my mother would get furious with me because I would slam the door, but I didn't touch the door. I would go into my bedroom being furious and my door would slam shut, or I'd go down the hall and pictures would fall off the wall. And I still have it a little bit, especially if I'm really mad or I'm really in deep thought, but it's not as frequent as it was when I was a kid. Did you have anything like that happen to you?
Yeah, I could. And mine was, sometimes it was a little more subtle than that. It was more of an influence. Like I could literally concentrate on somebody and have them go do something, and without saying anything, they'd get up and go do it. So I had that. I still have that. I can influence pretty easily. But as I've gotten older, not so much, you know, moving things, and but it's kind of.
I've noticed that I can still do that in my house.
You can still move them.
Well, I go to reach for something and it moves out of my grasp. I'm like,
it's
like I'm chasing it.
We blow lights out, My son and
Mine
daughter
do
blow
that
the
all the
lights out
time.
on their cars
On
all the
street
time.
lights.
Or street lights.
Street
Yep.
lights.
Street
I blow
lights
street
blow
lights out. If I'm pissed off and I'm driving, poof, poof, poof.
My
Yeah.
family will end up saying the same sentence at the same time, and it can be really creepy. Like two of them at the same time said, "Boy, slaughtering the British really tuckers you out," when they were playing a video game, and they were like,
Yeah.
"You stop! No, you stop! Go away!" So yeah, we do that. We influence like really hardcore. Which, if anyone in my family is stressed, we all feel it, and it pulls that energy. So it's really interesting.
My best friend Susie, growing up, we had the same dreams on the same nights.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
My mom said, you guys know that you're having a whole conversation, you haven't said a word, because we'll both like look at each other, we swear we're talking, and then we'd get up and leave because
Yep.
we've just discussed what we're going to go do. And my mom could hear it, but it wasn't being verbally spoken. So
Yeah,
she's
put her-
like, "Yeah, guys, just be back at 7. I know you're going to go ride the horse." So
Put a button on that one, McKenna, because that's a really good topic for next time. Like you were saying about the telepathy, because I got stories for you on that one. It'll freak you out. So yeah, let's do that.
Or you have somebody cross
Yeah.
your mind and your phone goes off and it was them calling. You know,
Yes.
it's it's
Yeah.
interesting.
I've had people just literally tell me to please stay out of their head, and I'm like,
Oh
stop
yeah,
yelling.
me
at me.
too. And I'm like, no, you're in my head. I'm not in your head. You're
Yes.
in my head.
Celeste, I'm like, so get out of my head. Just in my head. Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for the great chat.
Yeah.
We didn't have any readings tonight. Come back next week. We can do readings. We can have conversations and readings at the same time.
Yeah, ask anytime, huh?
All right, guys. It's so wonderful to have Kenna back. We'll see you guys next Wednesday. Bye.